Yo, what's happening, YouTube? Back with another episode of Mad Monday. This is episode number 7. For those of you who don't know who I am your host, Nomad222. I'm an event producer, I'm a performer, I'm aware of many hats, and overall a creative, some might say genius. But I make this content to let you guys know a little bit more about who I am as a person, so that, you know, the lines aren't too blurred between who is Nomad222 and who is Damon. And the most important thing about me that you need to know is that I'm a father of 4, and I'm very proud of that. I'm a proud Pacifica M.A.D Samoan man. And yeah, you can see I'm in the car with it. This is usually how I like to film these because I spend a lot of time on the road. And the one thing that I hate about driving is the fact that it feels unproductive aside from getting from point A to B. But that's why I mostly like to do this stuff in the car, because I can just turn on the camera and just start talking while I'm driving and feel like I've accomplished something. But anyway, this episode today, I think I already gave it away, but this is episode number 7. And today we are talking about the influence of culture. The influence of culture and the influence that it has on me as an artist, as a person. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm answering 7 questions today about that topic. And the first question that we have is, how does your cultural background inform your music and artistic expression? And I have to say, you know, if we're speaking about my heritage, my Pacifica, my Samoan and my M.A.D cultures and how that influences my music, I have to say that at first, you know, I've had a very long and complicated history with my cultures and, you know, where my parents are from, the heritage I have, simply due to the fact that I was born and raised in Melbourne. And, you know, it was hard enough just being a person of color and trying to grow up here in Australia, so-called Australia, and, you know, try to assimilate. I can only imagine what my parents had gone through, you know, being teenagers when they first came over here, and, you know, growing up in you know, an era where multiculturalism wasn't as celebrated as, you know, it is now. And I'm not saying it's perfect. There's a lot to go for. You know, when talking about multiculturalism and acceptance. But in saying that, you know, I grew up very confused about who I am and my place in this world. I'm very confused about my identity, what it means to be the person that I am. And, you know, it really skewed my perception of self for a very long time. And the fact that I even rap is just a testament to, you know, the sort of things that I was influenced by, the sort of music I was listening to, what I grew up seeing on TV and things like that. And yeah, obviously hip hop is an African American expression. It came from African Americans. And, you know, growing up, that's who you know, the people that I looked up to were the people that I was inspired by. So early on, my cultures didn't really have much of a impact on me, at least not immediately or at first. But my experience, you know, growing up as a half caste, who was, you know, too Aussie for the Polynesian kids, but too fob for the white kids, like, you know, that in a way sort of had an influence on me, and I rap about it a lot. I talk about it and what that experience was like. But it wasn't until I became an adult and I started to, you know, take ownership of, you know, the fact that there is Samoan and M.A.D blood in my veins. You know, that's something that people can't take away from me simply because I don't know the language or because I wasn't taught the cultural practices and things like that. It's still me. I still have claim to that. So I started to become a little bit more, I take a little bit more agency in that fact. And that's something that I'm proud of as a man today. And you see it reflect in the types of songs that I write. I mean, one of my most impactful songs to date is called We On. And that's a song that specifically was designed to speak to the youth who were having trouble on the streets, who were having trouble relating to one another and getting violent. And, you know, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of deaths in the western suburbs due to this fact. And even all around Victoria, all around Australia, even in Aotearoa, like just seeing so many deaths and things like that due to like senseless violence. So Anyway, long story short, I wrote We On as a way to convey to the youth that, you know, we are destined for more. Like, our people discovered the islands. Like, our people were navigators, they were voyagers. It's like the movie Moana, you know, and how they talk about how, you know, sorry, I just got to take this turn. Yeah, and she talks about, like, there's something waiting for me out over the shore. And that's why I wrote that song, was as a reminder to the young people that we came from voyages and we came from people who'd done something quite incredible in the grand scheme of things. We wouldn't be here today without their journey, their sacrifice, their curiosity, their wisdom, their courage. And we have a duty to carry on that legacy and not settle for lesser and, you know, accept the station that society has put us in. So to that extent, that's where my heritage and my culture plays a major part in my music. So yeah, and it's something that I'm trying to become more comfortable in discussing. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, going back to basketball terms, practice is what builds confidence. The more you practice something, the more confident you get in doing something, and you show up on game day ready to play. And the reason why I bring that up is because I'm active right now in learning the cultural practices of my people, in learning the ways of the M.A.D, and learning the ways of Samoans, and you know, giving myself more agency and taking agency in the fact that this is something that I can learn even if I didn't grow up in it. This is something that I can pick up right now, and I don't have to wait for someone to put the book in my hand, or, you know, put me in front of, you know, the right people. I can actually go and discover that right now and enjoy the process. So yeah, that's the influence that my culture has had on me on a personal level. So yeah, that's my answer to question one. I know that was pretty long-winded, but anyway, question number two: what aspects of your heritage are most important for you to convey in your work? The aspects that are most important for me, like, I think I just mentioned it, you know, what we came from, what our people are capable of, what we have achieved so far is nothing to scoff at. Like, we need to take ownership and more claim to that. Like, our people did that. So why would I do anything less than the extraordinary? You know, our people discovered the islands. There's more earth out there for me to discover. Why would I settle for, you know, just living and dying in the one town or, you know, village that I was born into, when I can have the whole world? Especially with the technology of today. Why are we not leveraging the technology that we have, that our ancestors didn't have, to do something the equivalent of the greatness that they were able to achieve with less? So yeah, that's the aspects that I'm always trying to convey. This story of, like, don't settle for what people are trying to tell you, what outsiders, people outside of your culture, are trying to chalk you up to being just this much. When no, you're so much more than that. You can be so much more than that. So yeah, that's question number two. Number three: how do you incorporate cultural elements into your music? Well, I don't do it quite just yet. At the moment, it's specifically just my lyrics, and, you know, focusing on crafting lyrics that, you know, maybe I include a word like mahi, which is work, in M.A.D, or, you know, trying to incorporate some of the limited amount of words and language. All right, so the footage cut out yesterday. I ran out of battery on the camera and didn't have time to film until I got home. But it's the next day. We're still talking about the influencer culture, and I believe I was up to question number 5, which is, how do you celebrate and honor your heritage through your art? And how do I celebrate and honor my heritage through my art? I think, you know, I've kind of already answered this question, if I'm not mistaken, where I mentioned how, you know, I try and incorporate the limited amount of words from, you know, Te Reo Māori and Samoan that I know, into my music wherever I can, whether that's, talking about Ainga or Fano or, you know, Mahi and all of that stuff. And just trying to be as diverse with the language that I use as I possibly can. It's still a journey that I'm on, constantly, and I'm constantly evolving and learning, new words and new language and different ways to reference the culture. I think another way too is just incorporating slang as well. That's like quite relevant to Polynesians as a whole. I think in my song Round Here, there's a line where I say, and I'm fresh off the boat because I be steering the ship. And what I mean by that is like, it's kind of reclamation of the term fresh off the boat, fob. And I know that's not like unique to just Polynesians and Pacifica. I know that, it's used for all immigrants, like people that, come from overseas. And I guess, there is some irony there since I was born and raised here. But, my parents were fresh off the boat. My parents came from overseas, or, fresh off the plane. So yeah, just wanted to mention that, bring that up. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways, and I'm actually more excited about how I can double down on that and make that a more prevalent thing in my music. I want to be able to eventually work with Polynesian musicians and instrumentalists and incorporate some of the traditional sounds and percussion and all of that from our culture and into our music. And potentially there's room to like sample from songs that we all know and love that are relevant in the islands. So yeah, that's just something to think about as we move forward and keep going and growing and evolving on this journey. Question number 6, what challenges do you face in representing your culture in your music? Well, quite honestly, the biggest challenge I face is just myself, and my lack of knowledge, my lack of awareness of the culture and stuff. But again, that's something that we're continuously evolving and learning more about. Especially now, I'm a lot more comfortable in myself than I was at a certain point in time, especially in the beginning. But yeah, it's always something that's been challenging and something that we need to push through. But externally, saying, the challenges that I face in representing my music, I think one of the obvious ones is just the fact that, like, what about the people that don't want to hear it? It's something that I have to be comfortable with myself, where, some of the things that I'm going to be touching on and talking about is, there's only a narrow amount of people in the population that are going to understand it, but I'm okay with that. Like, that's my people. So if my people understand it, then that's okay. But it's just something that I have to be aware of, that, the white Aussies that listen to my music, or the Asian community, all these other cultures that don't listen to me are going to have to find their own perspectives and reference points to be able to relate to what I'm talking about in the music, which, isn't the hardest thing to do. It just puts a lot of responsibility on my audience to be able to do that for me while they're listening, which is a lot of, I guess, control that I have to give up, and is something that I find quite difficult, being a control freak and being so passionate about the art that I create. And yeah, there's also just the business side of things where, let's just be honest about it. The industry are pushing a regime right now, or they're pushing a certain narrative, and society has kind of accepted that narrative, that music shouldn't be about thinking, and music needs to be dumbed down and palatable to the general audience, and the general audience are not smart enough to understand the kind of music that's being made. So that leaves me with not much room to work with, where I can put out a song that's really touching on certain subjects, tough material, because what if people don't listen to it? They hear me rapping too much. And that's a real thing. Like, people get upset when people are rapping too much. like that's not what we're supposed to be doing in hip hop. And they tune out. They don't listen to the music, and then we don't get played, and then we can't be sustainable working artists because no one's listening to the music, and there's no demand for our music, and there's no royalties or anything like that. It's a whole can of worms. But it's something. As artists, we got to find that balance where we're okay with, sacrificing the monetary value of a song to keep its integrity and make sure that we're actually doing something with the music, because music is medicine. And I want to shout out my friend Leah for bringing that up to me. Music is medicine, and we have a duty to make sure that we're actually creating medicine and not just putting out placebo music. We all know what a placebo is. It's those fake pills that they do in medicine trials, and that way they can skew and collect data and all of this shit. But it's a fake pill. It's fake medicine. It's not real. But you take it anyway. It makes you feel good. We have a duty as practitioners of this art form to put out music that's actually going to heal and do something, make you feel a certain way. So that's my answer to number 6. Question number 7, how do you hope your music impacts others from similar backgrounds? The way that I hope my music impacts others from similar backgrounds, I think I've pretty much touched on it. Like, how I interpret that question is like, obviously I'm making music for Pacifica Māori, but what about the communities out there, the migrant communities who fall under, Asian, Southeast Asian, North Asians, like all the Asian community, Europeans, all the different cultures around the world, and multiculturalism. I feel like I write from a lens of multiculturalism, and that even though my narratives are quite specific to Polynesians, there's a relatability across the board that anyone can tune in, hear me talking about our ancestry and being a descendant of a powerful lineage, and they can tap into that and relate to that through their own lens. Like, just think about different cultures around the world, and what people in the Americas have gone through. The Mexicans, Latinas around the world, just all different cultures have very similar histories to what Polynesians have gone through. And yeah, that's also a reason why, like, not just myself, but a lot of brown Polynesian boys were able to tap into, like, what African Americans were talking about and relate to it in a specific way. I'm not trying to say that, Polynesians definitely have a history of slavery in different ways. I'm not trying to do a struggle comparison right there. But what I mean is that there's so many things that come up within songs that are relatable to our own experiences and our own history. So that's how I feel like my music impacts others from similar backgrounds. And it has. I've had people reach out to me before and tell me that, hey, what you said in this song is very similar to what I'm going through. Like, I don't have kids, but I definitely have responsibilities. I have, like, elderly parents that I have to take care of, and it's become my duty, and you inspire me to keep going and pushing through these struggles and things like that. So if I can just continue to have that kind of impact for the rest of my life with the rest of the music that I have to put out and everything like that, then I'm accomplishing my goal. And then I'm stepping up to the plate, and I'm stepping into my purpose. And look, the only thing that's ever going to get in the way of my purpose and what I'm doing, it always comes back to money, right? I'm at a stage where I'm trying to figure out a way to make sure that it's sustainable. However, the biggest obstacle there is to ensure that I can achieve that without compromising my morals, without compromising my ethics, without compromising my integrity as a man, and prioritizing that first. Right, so sustainability is a very important thing to me, and I used to think that achieving some sort of monetary success from music was the number one thing for me in the entire world. But now I know for sure at 26 years old that my integrity has to come first. My authenticity has to come first. And if I can remain integral, if I can keep my integrity intact for the rest of my life and somewhere achieve monetary success, again, I don't need to be rich and famous. I don't need to, have a mansion on the coast and, live by the beach and do 5 vacations a year. I don't need that luxury, lavish shit. I just need to be able to own a home that no one can take away from me, own some land that I can keep my family in, and that my whole family, the rest of my lineage, everyone can return home to, and that can be all of our anchoring center, tether point for all of us. That's all I need in this life. Something modest. If I have that, then I can just make music freely and be completely free from the system and do exactly what I was put on this earth to do, and that's create medicine. So yeah, that's episode number 7. I hope you guys enjoyed it so far. Sorry for the split. I'm sorry if I missed any questions or anything like that. You know how it is with batteries and technology and things like that. But anyway, that was the influencer culture. Again, I'm doing this every single Monday, so make sure you tune in. If you haven't watched the other episodes, go back. This is episode number 7, so there's 6 more for you to go back and look. If you like this, leave a like. If you didn't like it, smash the dislike button. Any interactions help. If you have any questions you want to ask me separate to this, again, I'm putting together a separate series where I'm answering your questions, and that can be about personal life, that can be about what's going on in the music. If you guys need advice or anything like that, if I'm a person that you can look for advice from, then please hit me in the comment section and just let me know what you thought about this episode in general. But anyway, really appreciate all the support. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on all the socials. Follow me on the Spotify, because we're trying to get to 4 million monthly listeners. And yeah, you already know what it is. Together, we move.